This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, welcome into Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. Getting ready to wrap up your weekend, take you into your Monday morning here on The Big Show. What a weekend it was. What a Masters it was. And that's the only place that is right to start. Rory McIlroy finally getting the elusive green jacket in Augusta. And my goodness, what a nail-biting finish it was for the Irishman. I mean, this was no easy win. This was no Rory cruises to his first green jacket. This was edge of your seat type stuff. I would call it as good a Masters as we've had, undoubtedly the best since Tiger in 2019. I mean, I think of the best Masters that I've watched, that I've enjoyed last 10 to 15 years. It's Tiger 2019. It's Rory 2025. What a story. I mean, the guy bursts on the scene in 2007 and enjoys almost immediate success, especially by golf standards, right? Where it could take some time to not just get on the scene, but actually make yourself known and start winning. He gets the other three majors that comprise the Grand Slam. It's like shot after shot after shot. Rory McIlroy goes on an incredible run and just can't get it done in Augusta. Close but no cigar, good early showings, some choke jobs, finishes of 5th, of 4th, of 2nd. But the green jacket starting to seem, and look, Rory McIlroy's not old, right? He's what? He's in his 40s. It's not like he's old, but starting to seem like maybe he just wasn't cut off to get the green jacket. And despite one of probably, I would say, the worst back nines of his life, he gets the job done and perseveres through a playoff. Justin Rose, by the way, another guy who has kind of become synonymous with, blowing a lead in Augusta. Rose, this was the 5th time he was the leader after round 1. And then rounds 2, rounds 3 kind of does his thing and falls off a bit. Surges back round 4 to force the playoff. I mean, the fact that it was Rose, it wasn't DeChambeau, it wasn't Oberg, it wasn't Connors. I mean, Ludwig Oberg, Corey Connors, let's just pour one out for those of you who might have had a top 5 ticket on one of those two guys. I'm sick for you if you had a top 5 ticket on Ludwig Oberg or Corey Connors. I mean, Connors just didn't have it today. Just didn't have it on Sunday. And Ludwig Oberg had it for the first 16 holes. Guy was 4 under going into the 17th. Goes bogey, goes triple, boom. Finishes par on the day. Was 4 under with 2 holes to go. I mean, the top 5 ticket on Oberg seemed like a mortal lock after 16 stinking holes. He seemed like he was, he was the one who was going to challenge Rory potentially. Not Rose. Certainly not DeChambeau. DeChambeau just crumbled. By the way, I don't hate it. I don't hate seeing DeChambeau crumble. I mean, I saw a report that Bryson DeChambeau was trying to talk to Rory all day and that Rory didn't say a word back to him. If that's the case, I kind of love it. Not going to lie. If that report is true, that Rory did not say a word to DeChambeau, I love it because he was laser focused. He knew what was at stake. He knew the narrative. Rory McIlroy knew the narrative. And he still overcame not having his best day, shooting 1 over in round 4. But got the playoff win, and that's all that matters. How about some other notable performances, right? We talk about DeChambeau with the choke job, 3 over. Oberg and Connors, the choke jobs down the line as things finished. How about Patrick Reed, the 2018 Masters winner? Guy was 90 to 1, 100 to 1. Outright, obviously, outright didn't get there, but to finish 9 under, sole possession of 3rd. What a showing from Patrick Reed. Kind of just, hovered 1 under on Thursday, 2 under on Friday, and then back-to-back days of 3 under. Unlike Rory, unlike DeChambeau, unlike Oberg, Reed never had a day where he was, better than 3 under, but also was under par consistently. Rory had 2 days of shooting par or worse. DeChambeau, 3 over. Oberg, 2 days of par or worse. Connors had the implosion round 4 after 3 great days to start. Patrick Reed was just slow and steady. And, it didn't in this case ultimately. Got him third place. It didn't win the race, as they say. But it got him third place for a guy who is 90 to 1, 100 to 1 at some shops in the outright market. If you had a top 5 finish plus 550, pat yourself on the damn back, because that is a pretty top 5 ticket to cash. Let's hear from Rory McIlroy now on finally capturing the elusive, the evasive green jacket that was 11 years in the making.
I've carried that burden since August 2014. It's been 11 years. It's nearly 11 years. I'm not just about winning my next major, but the career Grand Slam, trying to join a group of 5 players to do it. Watching a lot of my peers get green jackets in the process. It's been difficult, and I've tried to approach this tournament with the most positive attitude each and every time that I've shown up, and I think just the sort of cumulative experience that I've gained coming back here each and every year, I feel like I get a little more comfortable with the shots needed.
There's something he said towards the end there. He talked about trying to approach this tournament, show up with a positive attitude every year. Golf, maybe more so than any other sport, if not more so than as much as any other sport. It wears on you mentally. And when you show up at a course and this course chews me up, spits me out time after time, even when I bring my best game, I end up somewhere finishing 4th, 2nd, 5th, because something goes wrong at this course, inevitably. Every single time, it is tough to stay in a headspace, especially down the stretch. Rory, he said it in that presser, right? After winning it all, he said it. He goes, what am I, the first guy to ever go 4 doubles and win it? Yeah, he was the first guy to ever shoot 4 double bogeys over the weekend and win the Masters. But it doesn't matter, because no one's talking about the double bogeys. We're talking about the green jacket. And for him to be chasing the Grand Slam for 11 years and finally capture it, how do you not root for this guy? Ticket holder or not, how are you not ecstatic for this guy right now? And oh, by the way, the guy he was going up against in the playoff, Justin Rose, I think is a really likable guy and another guy who it's easy to root for. And there was a point there when I saw that they're going to the playoff, and I'm like, Rose, Rory, you can't be mad either way, right? You can root for Rory and you can want Rory to pull it off, but you can't be mad either way, because Justin Rose and, the narrative that kind of follows him around, that, yeah, he'll be the leader after round 1, but, look for him to be tied 10th on day 4 would have been great for him to break that narrative any other year, just not against Rory. This was Rory's year. This was meant to be Rory's year, and he finally captures the green jacket. How could you not be ecstatic for Rory McIlroy? We've got a lot of great action coming up, folks. Masters might be in the books, but the NBA playoffs are around the corner. The play-in is around the corner. We've got Tuesday night's action set, a break in the action Monday, and then boom, Hawks Magic and Warriors Grizzlies. I can't wait for these games. Both favorites, both 7 seeds, favored by 5 or more. Magic laying 5. Warriors laying 7 against Memphis. I'm wondering if that 7 just might be a tick too many for Golden State to be given to the Grizzlies. Look, this Warriors team is sensational, and the defense has been on another level since Jimmy got there. The thing is, how much offense do they have after Steph, after Jimmy? You got Buddy Hield off the bench, who is, a bit hit or miss, we'll say a bit streaky. When he's on, great ancillary scorer, great third piece. That Podziemski kid, he's had some good offensive showings. I would not at all classify him as consistent. I would not in 1,000 years classify him as someone I'm going to lean on in the postseason. So realistically, who's your third scoring option? Buddy Hield? That concerns me, And you got Draymond down the stretch and all the steam on Defensive Player of the Year that I don't think is warranted. Frankly, it doesn't matter when we're talking about isolating a playoff game. I just think 7 points. When you look at Memphis's depth, and, Ja Morant down the stretch, has he been an idiot? Absolutely. Has Ja Morant been their best player? I don't know. I don't know if Ja Morant's been their best player down the stretch. I think Desmond Bane, you can argue, has been Memphis's best player down the stretch. I think if I look at someone in the Grizzlies in this one game, isolating this one game playoff, and I say we need to stop that man, I think that man is Desmond Bane. Because you can let John Morant take 30 shots, and maybe he'll make 14 of them. But what John Morant's been this season is a very inefficient shooter, a very inconsistent shooter. Desmond Bane is the guy who scares me. You know, I think the Warriors are equipped to somewhat neutralize a Triple J, a Jaren Jackson Jr. But I think the Grizzlies' depth can keep this game, their versatile scoring options can keep this game a little closer than Golden State would be comfortable with. You know, I'm holding on to my Houston Rockets ticket. 27-1 to emerge out of the West. Do I think the Rockets are coming out of the West? Of course I don't. But 27-1 to emerge out of the West. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be sitting there Tuesday night rooting for the Grizzlies outright because the value of that ticket, should they some way, somehow draw the Grizzlies, going to be exponentially better than the value of that ticket should it be Houston, Golden State. Over in the East, I think the Hawks are going to be frisky. Interesting movement on the total here. Open 218, quickly steamed down a full point, 217. Really interesting movement on that total. Look, if the Hawks get their way, it's probably going to be an over. If the Magic get their way, probably going to be an under. Down there in Orlando between the first and second place teams in the Southeast Division, who combined to go, 81 and 83? What a weak division that was. More NBA playoffs up next. Don't go anywhere. It's Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you into your Monday morning, starting your week after another wild weekend in the world of sports. All over the NBA playoff picture, it took 82 full games to devise the picture in the Western Conference. Had a little better idea, I think, after 81 games in the East, what was going on. But in the West, it took 82 full games to get those seeds determined. I mean, 2 games separating the 4 seed from the 8 seed? In this conference, just a wildly bunched up competitive Western Conference, which I believe also has shown us that we don't need this play-in crap, right? Sacramento and Dallas, really? I mean, how much better would the playoffs be if we just got down to business? Golden State, you're going to Houston. Memphis, you're going to Oklahoma City. Boom. 8 teams that are 48 and 34 or better, go duke it out. Instead, we got to sit through the Sacramento Kings and the Dallas Mavericks, and then watch the winner of that game either get waxed by the loser of Golden State Memphis or take a playoff spot away from one of them. And you might say, well, wouldn't that be great? No, this isn't March Madness. We don't need a 13 beating a 4. I love it in college hoops. We don't need that in the NBA. So Sacramento could get swept by Oklahoma City. Give me a break. What would you rather see? John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Triple J against SGA and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren? Or would you rather see the Kings go get swept, get waxed, get absolutely cakewalked? The play-in's a joke. Top 8, that's it. We don't need the sub 500 9 and 10 seeds. You know, potentially if they have one good night taking a spot away from a Memphis or a Golden State. The one good night, that thing works in college. The Cinderella thing works. There are no Cinderellas in the NBA playoffs because you got to win a whole series. So we don't need one game between Sacramento and Golden State or Sacramento and Memphis dictating an entire series. I mean, look, is Oklahoma City going to win no matter who it is? Absolutely. But I think you and I can agree. We'd rather watch the Thunder and the Grizzlies or the Thunder and the Warriors than the Thunder versus the Kings or the Mavericks. I think we can all agree on that from an entertainment perspective. Now, from a betting perspective, let's find some value this opening round. So obviously, Thunder, Houston, we don't have series prices yet. But what we do have is, I believe, a very intriguing price on the Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers. And you got a Nuggets team that is in the post-Malone era. Michael Malone canned with 3 games to go. Calvin Booth, the GM, as well. And they're 3-0 in that era. Now, has that been against great competition, fierce competition? Not necessarily. How will that translate to the playoffs? I think poorly. So despite the fact that you've got home court advantage, you've got the altitude working in your favor, I think the Nuggets are primed to go down. Yet they're laying 65 cents. Clippers plus $1.35? Sign me up. We talk about narratives, right? Talk about Rory McIlroy and the Masters just 10, 15 minutes ago in the narrative and how the collapse is always impending, is always looming. Well, James Harden has a narrative of his own that he's got to break here. And that's being as piss poor a playoff performer as any short thing Hall of Famer could be. I'm excited to see James Harden break that narrative. I think he's going to do it. Not a lot of people do. I think he's going to. And I think he's going to lean on his supporting cast heavily. Make no doubt about that. But this Clippers team, when healthy, is a force. And we talk about the Nuggets post Michael Malone's firing, rattling off 3 straight wins, right? How about the Clippers? They've won 8 in a row to end the year. How about Kawhi Leonard's last 14 games? They're 13-1 straight up. How about the fact that James Harden doesn't have to be the guy? He has to be a guy, not the guy. Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs is the guy. And Ivica Zubac, by the way, is a hell of a guy. And Norm Powell, when he's fully healthy, is sensational. This Clippers team, when they're healthy and they're clicking, really has proven to us this year they can beat just about anyone. And they can play different styles. They can grind it out in a defensive game, and unlike Clippers teams, I feel like of years past, they can also run it up there in a bit of a shootout and get up to 130, 140 if need be on rare occasion. I think they're primed to take down the Nuggets. You come back to the Intuit Dome, and by the way, they've loved playing at that Intuit Dome year 1 in Inglewood. You come back to the Intuit Dome, tied 1-1. I'm not saying you got to go to Denver and sweep. You come back tied a game apiece, I think you're in good shape. I think you're in really good shape when you shorten that series. Just keep it knotted up, come back home, make it a 5-game set first to 3, and I think the Clippers are in good shape. Of the 4 series prices we have, I think that's the most live upset. The other one, I'll put the Milwaukee Bucks there at plus 55 cents. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it certainly intrigues me. Indiana, I think, is just too heavy of a favorite. Even if there's no Dame Lillard, you got Giannis, and you didn't have Giannis a season ago. And the Bucks got run out of there a season ago in the playoffs, but they've got, I believe, an edgy, chippy, pissed off Giannis who may have forgotten what it feels like to be a champion. Milwaukee was a team that I think a lot of people pointed to and said, hey, there's dynasty potential here. There's repeat potential here. And it's just been bust after bust since they finally won it all. And back in 2020, what was that, 2021? I think this Milwaukee team is pissed off. I think Giannis is pissed off. And let's face it, Giannis is this team. This team goes through Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm going to be looking at him to have a monster series. I might be looking at some triple-double numbers here, some 30-plus markets. I think Giannis is going to go off in this series. I certainly love the over 5.5 games, although I'm not laying 80 cents for it. Sorry. But I certainly love over 5.5. And I mean, if it gets over that, you're looking at Game 6 in Milwaukee, or the Bucks going to lose a Game 6 on their home court, then a Game 7. Out of any guy on the court for either team, who would you rather have in a Game 7? Give me Giannis. The Pacers are the deeper team. The Pacers are the more complete, well-rounded team with no Dame out there. But the Bucks have Giannis. And if there's a sport where it could come down to we have that guy, it's basketball. It's the NBA. I think this series, look, Indiana should, of course, be the favorite, but I think this series is mispriced with the Pacers laying 90 cents out there against the Bucks. Hey, folks, Edge Boost is the first ever bank account that is built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions get approved. What does that mean? It means no usage fees, no minimums. It means you can earn cashback rewards and get 100% approval for all betting deposits. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today at edgeboost.bet. Use the promo code, everyone's favorite word, CASH, Deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match the deposit. That's edgeboost.bet. Who doesn't like no usage fees and no minimums, huh? Stop waiting. Go to edgeboost.bet today. Shifting gears a little bit, want to look at the week upcoming on the diamond here. Some intriguing pitching matchups, some intriguing games on Monday. Paul Skeens taking the bump against the Nationals. How about the total in that one? 7. Is that a low total? Absolutely. Do I like it? I think I do. And here's why. The more I look at this, and the over is juiced 15 cents and the under is juiced just 5 cents. I can't touch a Skeens K prop. 6.5, you're laying 60 cents. It's allowed maybe. Oh, no, the over-under is 3.5 again. Walks allowed you can look at. Earned runs, but under 1.5, you're laying 50 cents. I think the under might be the play. Here's why. We could be dealing with some weather in Pittsburgh, some potential rain. And if this one gets shortened, under 7, we saw it with the Yankees-Giants game. Now, we had the over, and it went over, but we saw a game get shortened and get called on Friday after 6 innings. Giants were up, 9-1? So we cashed our over 8 runs, but could have gotten ugly. If the game, getting called after 6 innings, a total is scary there if you've got an over. In this case, you've got Brad Lord going for the Nationals. Now, he's kind of a no-name. Faded him last time out against the Dodgers. Nationals got the win in that game. Now he's going up against the Pirates team. That is far from the Dodgers lineup. This Pittsburgh team in 16 games has only scored 5 or more runs twice in 16 games. So you got the most dynamic pitcher in baseball in Paul Skeens, and you got one of the worst lineups in the Pirates lineup. And I think that points towards an under. I think we might have a play here on under 7, and guess what? Once that 5th inning wraps, I will be praying for the skies to open up and get us the hell out of Dodge, because that's a low total, and the Pirates have a really bad bullpen. So you got to rely. The worst thing that can happen for a situation like this is the rain happens in the 3rd inning, Skeen gets pulled, and then you got 6 innings of the Pirates bullpen. Nationals team total might go over 7 if that's the case. But if Skeens goes 6 or 7 innings, the way the Pirates have been failing to hit, it's a low total. I might want to go under 7 runs. Nationals, Pirates. We'll see if it's a best bet later on. More Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo continues here on VSiN.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues here on VSiN with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through your late night, and now taking you over to the Progressive guest line as we welcome in RotoWire senior analyst, also the terrific co-host of Prop Points right here on VSiN, weekdays 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, Nick Whalen, joining us on the show. Nick, my man, Masters Sunday in the books. Rory finally gets it done via the playoff this time around against Justin Rose. Take us through the weekend, man. What were your thoughts? A lot of people thought Rory seemed dead after the first round, had an incredible Friday, incredible Saturday, and then avoids what would have been another epic collapse in Augusta. What does this mean for Rory and for the sport? He's been chasing this for over a decade.
Well, I'm scrambling a little bit here, Joe, because I thought for sure we'd be starting with Pat Connaughton putting up 43 and 11 today in a totally meaningless game for the Milwaukee Bucks. But I guess we'll set that aside for now. No, man. I mean, this is obviously the headliner, and I'm with you. I think it starts with how this week began for Rory McIlroy, right? Which is like this immaculate first 13 holes, 13 holes on Thursday, and then the collapse. And you're just wondering, okay, can he even get back to the point where you feel like he's truly contending for this tournament, let alone winning it, right? That almost felt like a side conversation for a little bit there on Thursday night. And, as we talked about last week, Joe, I am more of a golf player than I am somebody who's, totally locked in, watching every single round, every single week. But I think I might be in on golf betting after this. I mean, this was such an incredible tournament. I'm not somebody who's, spending time, writing long tweets like I saw over and over this weekend about Rory's legacy or what this means for him. I was kind of indifferent as to whether or not he won, but it was almost impossible not to root for Rory McIlroy down the stretch. And I think, knowing what we know, having watched him as closely as we all have for so long, it feels kind of fitting that this is the way he finally got this done, right? It wasn't some runaway where you knew he had it clinched up by the 15th hole. It was kind of the perfect encapsulation of Rory's recent career, especially in majors, right? I mean, the first guy to win the Masters with 4 double bogeys throughout the week. I mean, multiple crushingly poor shots over these last couple of days. The double bogey on 13 was unbelievable. Almost went in the water. He was 4 inches away from going in the water on 11, a couple holes earlier. The missed putts on 15 and 18, but then mixed in with that, like some of the best golf shots that I've ever seen in my life, right? That shot on 7 over the trees, then the swooping 7-iron to 4 feet. I think he hit that thing like 205. That would be a good like 45 yards further than I've ever hit a 7-iron in my life. And, of course, Rory then missing the eagle putt because, of course, that's how it's going to go for him. It was just, it was a perfect Rory weekend. I feel like he got the result you wanted if you're a Rory McIlroy fan. And I think it kind of came in a roundabout way in the perfect way.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And obviously, look, the story with Rory here, has taken so much of the spotlight, but there were a lot of other, for better or worse, notable round 4 performances. I mean, how about the collapse by Ludwig at the end there on the 18th hole? And, you actually cashed a ticket on Ludwig because you went, and I'm going to say this to your credit because some people might take this as an insult. You went the more conservative route, but it actually worked to your credit and to your benefit with 2 guys, Ludwig and Corey Connors, who both were in position for top 5 finishes going into round 4, and both finished outside of the top 5, but inside the top 10. So take us through those 2 tickets that you had on Ludwig and Corey Connors' top 10.
Yeah, I did play it pretty conservatively. The one outright that I did have was John Rahm at 13-1, which he was fine. He was never really in the mix. I think he finished T14. But yeah, Connors to me, I felt like he should have been more in the mix. Honestly, today missed some putts he should have made. I thought he had a couple opportunities to kind of join that lead group on the back 9 and just missed those. Oberg, ended up in solo 7th after playing the last 2 holes at 4 over. So yeah, in a roundabout way, I guess that worked out. Certainly felt like he was the guy for a while there who might swoop in and steal this from Rory, right? For so long, in the lead up to yesterday, all you're talking about is this Rory versus Bryson showdown. And you kind of forget that, Justin Reed could still storm back, or Justin Rose, could still storm back. And of course did that and made the playoff. Patrick Reed closed strong, never really had a chance to win that tournament. Scotty Scheffler was hanging around, but there was that, after the double from McIlroy, that's when it felt like, oh my goodness, Oberg is right there. And, at that time he was completely lighting it up. Obviously a really disappointing end of the tournament for him, but I have a feeling this will not be the last time we're talking about Oberg being in contention at a major.
No, I wouldn't think so either. And then, you kind of misspoke and had a little Freudian slip there when you said Justin Reed. Yeah. How about Patrick Reed? I mean, for your top 10 hits on Ludwig and Corey that were great, the top 10 hit on Reed, sensational. You hit that at 11-2. Why was he so undervalued in the market, do you think? Because you were all over him, and he's a guy who's had success on this course. He's a green jacket winner, but, he was such a ridiculous long shot. Why was that?
Yeah, I think he was 90-1, maybe even longer at some books to win the tournament. And, really, I think this is falling back on a strategy when it comes to betting the Masters that tends to work out, which is, bet on guys who have experience here, not guys who've just played the Masters, 5+ times, but guys who've actually had success at this course. And, Patrick Reed came into the 2025 Masters with 5 top 15s, 4 top 10s in his career, a couple of top 5s, and of course won it back in 2018. And, if you talk to Patrick Reed himself, I think he feels like he probably should have been more so in contention to actually win this thing. He was really disappointed in the putter earlier in the week, but he's somebody that I think obviously has success at Augusta, but also not somebody that I really worry about showing up to this tournament in peak form. And obviously it's very difficult to evaluate the live guys unless you're watching the CW network every weekend. But he's somebody that, regardless of, what his public opinion is at that point, regardless of what the pricing is, always seems to show up at Augusta. I almost considered sprinkling on him at 90-1 to win the tournament. I guess I'm glad that we didn't end up doing that, but not surprised that he ended up hanging around. He always does.
Yeah, that was a hell of a call by you, top 10 plus 550 on Reed there as he finishes 3rd. Folks, summer is right around the corner. So unlock your winning edge with an unbeatable offer. Get full VSiN Pro access to everything we do through August 1st for just $59. That's 50% off the regular monthly price. That'll include a daily email recapping all of the best bets from our hosts and guests, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, complete with trends and analysis to sharpen your game, 24/7 video on the VSiN Watch app, plus full VSiN.com access featuring advanced analytics and pro betting systems. Every sport, every edge, one incredible price. So don't wait. Get full access through August 1st, just $59. VSiN.com/ subscribe. Nick Whalen with us on the Progressive Guest Line, co-host of Prop Points right here on VSiN, also senior analyst over at RotoWire. Nick, NBA playoffs, the field is finally set. Took 82 games to get our seeding, especially in the Western Conference, but we've got the matchups now. Obviously, We're awaiting the 1-8 and the 2-7s for the play-in. But as we look at these series prices, 3-6, 4-5, what are your thoughts on Nuggets Clippers? I think LA at plus $1.35 is really enticing.
There were two series prices that jumped out to me right away, Joe, and that was one of them. I think this is going to be the most compelling, probably the best to watch of all the first round series. Even if we do end up getting OKC, Golden State in round one, that'll be fantastic. But I think this will be the most competitive, maybe that's the right word, of all the first round series. I mean, I think there is value on the Clippers. I really do. I don't know that we can just look at, this last week essentially for the Denver Nuggets and say, all right, they've moved past, firing their head coach at the 79 game mark. Yeah, they're 3-0 since then, but they haven't really played an elite opponent. The Clippers are 18-7. Since Kawhi Leonard was cleared to play more than 30 minutes. They've lost one game straight up with Kawhi Leonard on the court in the last month, 13-1 in their last 14 games with Kawhi. And again, the Nuggets, feel like they've kind of smoothed things over. They beat the Kings, the Grizzlies, and, whatever version of the Rockets that we saw today to finish out the year. But I would look long and hard at the Clippers plus 135 to win this series. They split the season series 2-2. Kawhi did not play in any of those games. Like the Nuggets had not even had a look at the current version of Kawhi Leonard. And I think Kawhi is playing at the highest and most consistent level that we have seen from him in a long time. Now, the one thing that does worry me, Joe, is this requires you to have faith in James Harden, who has maybe the worst playoff track record of any lock future Hall of Famer in recent memory. So it's not just about Kawhi. Obviously, the Nuggets have the best player in this series, but I think the Nuggets over the last week and a half or so kind of became one of those teams that you maybe didn't want to play a month ago, and now they feel a lot more vulnerable. And the Clippers, to me, feel like a team that can exploit that.
Yeah, the Nuggets have gone from 8-1 to win the West to plus 950. The Clippers have shortened up from 18-1 to 15-1. I think the Clippers are a matchup nightmare for Denver. Nick, a little over a minute to go here. Let's take it over to the 4-5 matchup in the East. Milwaukee, Indiana, the Pacers laying almost $2. I know, obviously, if Dame Lillard's not out there, that it's going to be an uphill battle for the Bucks. But is that too high of a price, too long of a price for the Pacers?
I think it is. And yes, I am here in the city of Milwaukee saying this. I promise this is not homerism. If anything, I tend to go against my teams more than anything. But I think this is crazy. I even sent this around to some of my guys, and I'm like, this feels wrong, right? Minus 190 for Indy to win this series. I don't think Milwaukee fears this matchup. I think they wanted to dodge the New York Knicks in round one. I think this was the goal, to set up that rematch with the Indiana Pacers. We have to keep in mind that Giannis has basically played 2.5 playoff games over the last 2 seasons. I mean, they took the Pacers to 6 last year with Giannis playing 0 minutes in that series. Damian Lillard also missed 2 games in that series. He was hampered throughout, even when he was out there. Bucks, by the way, have quietly won 8 games in a row heading into the playoffs. So I would look at Milwaukee to win that series. I would look at the over 5.5 games. I don't think they breeze through necessarily, especially with the unknown that we have right now with Damian Lillard. We should find out more about that tomorrow, according to Shams Charania. But even if Dame comes back mid-series, like just having Giannis out there, I think is such an advantage for Milwaukee. So I think that one is a little bit mispriced.
Yeah, that over 5.5 seems low, although, hey, it is heavily juiced. You'd have to lay 80 cents for the over. More picks, more winners up next. More cashing out with Joe Ceraulo here on VSiN.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues here with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you into your Monday morning on the big show and gearing you up for a fun week. It was a wild weekend in sports. Rory McIlroy finally does what I think some people were starting to call or consider the unthinkable. 11 years chasing a Grand Slam, the ever elusive, evasive green jacket finally in Rory's possession. So a perfect bow on a great weekend in sports, but we've got so much to look forward to. We've got the NBA playoffs and the play-in starting as soon as Tuesday. We've got another great week on the diamond. The NHL regular season wraps up on Thursday. It is a great time on the sports calendar, folks. We've also got some best bets in Major League Baseball specifically coming up. So let's dive in. It's time for the VSiN Daily Morning Bets. We are starting the VSiN Daily Morning Bets with a game that I highlighted earlier on in the program right here on Cashing Out. And it's a total. Had a little luck with a total, despite some weather being a factor, on Friday in the Bronx. Gave out over 8. Game ended after 6 innings. That should have been a death sentence for an over. Yet the Giants got there, winning 9-1. Marcus Stroman just absolutely got shelled. So we cashed our over on Friday. Well, now I'm seeing rain in Pittsburgh, and I'm going under. 7. It's a low total. Now, you can get 7.5 if you want to lay 25 cents. I'm going under 7 at minus 105 here. It is Paul Skeens' day in Pittsburgh. Paul Skeens, the most dynamic pitcher in the game, going up against the Washington Nationals. And how about this Brad Lord kid for Washington? I mean, he was the pitcher on the bump when they beat the Dodgers a week ago. I took LA. That was my money line parlay that got blown up. Thank God it went 0-2. I always say I'd rather go 0 for on a parlay than lose it by 1. But Robleski, the lefty for the Dodgers, got shelled. LA losing 2 out of 3 in DC. By the way, the Dodgers, they've lost 6 out of their last 10. But this Brad Lord kid, a guy who has come out of left field, I didn't know who the heck he was, and he's looked good. We all know who Paul Skeens is. We all know how Paul Skeens looks, despite a little hiccup against the Cardinals. And I think the under is in play here. First off, you look at the weather. You've got a 70% chance of precipitation at game time, and that doesn't really let up for about 2 hours, so you've got the possibility of either the game starting, pray to whoever you believe in, we get 5 innings in, boom, get in and out with a little under in 5 innings or so if the start ends or if the game ends. Also, what you could be dealing with is a pregame delay. And maybe the game not starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Maybe the game starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Everyone waiting around and being sluggish and the bats not coming alive. And then, boom, you get a quick 2-1 dud of a game and you get out of there. So I think the weather plays perfectly into the under. And for Pittsburgh, it's twofold. This handicap is almost solely on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going under on the Nationals lineup because Paul Skeens is pitching for Pittsburgh, and for everyone not named Josh Bell or Ahmed Rosario, it will be their first time seeing Paul Skeens, so good luck with that. And then it's also a fade of the Pirates lineup itself, because this is a lineup that has been one of the worst in baseball this year. Pittsburgh has scored 4 or fewer runs in 14 of its 16 games. The lineup has been anything but dynamic. They use the word I use to describe Paul Skeens. And if Brad Lord went out there and looked more than serviceable, more than respectable against the Dodgers, how do you think he's going to look against one of the worst offenses in baseball? So the Pirates have one of the best pitchers on the planet Earth going, and they have one of the worst lineups on the planet Earth going. Give me the under 7 minus 105. And that, folks, is my best bet. Best bet's brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. G-Bank is upping the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from the account opening will receive a $250 bonus. Additionally, you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of the account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. That is potentially a $750 bonus. Apply now. VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions, of course, apply. Got one other bet on the Diamond Monday, and we are fading Dylan Cease on the bump for the Padres. The Padres, oh, by the way, best record in baseball through 16 games, 13-3. They've been unstoppable. They've been incredible. They have 2 of those 3 losses at the hands of the Chicago Cubs, who are coming to town. They're getting their season series out of the way nice and early. By the way, if you're the Chicago Cubs, where else would you rather be in April than San Diego, right? Beats Wrigley this time of year. The Cubs' bats have been great. Now, they've only allowed opposing pitchers to go 6 innings or more in 4 of their 18 games. So we're getting a guy like Dylan Cease, who has been on the struggle bus to start the year. And we're getting under 17.5 outs, minus 115. I can't pass on that. I feel like the shops are baiting you. Take Cease 6 innings. Take over 17.5. They're giving you a good price. They're giving you minus 120 on the over. I'm going minus 115 on the under, though. He got shellacked in Sacramento his last time out. And that was a night where we took the Padres to win. And he gives up 9 and 3+ innings and looks disastrous. And by the way, the Padres gifted Cease like a 4-0 first inning lead. and immediately coughed it up, gave it back, and then some. So Dylan Cease looked awful. Now, I know you could say, well, that's Sacramento. The ball's been flying there. Offense has been incredible there. Don't isolate that start. How about how bad the Braves offense has been? That Atlanta chased Dylan Cease out of the game at Petco in his first start of the year after 4 1/3 allowing 3 earned. Now, you could look at that and say, well, if the Braves became what we thought the Braves would be, all right, 3 earned, 4 1/3, not the end of the world. But the Braves haven't been that. The Braves haven't won back-to-back games yet this year. The Braves have been a dumpster fire this year so far, 4-11 through 15 games. So Dylan Cease getting worked by the Braves and worked by the A's tells me there's something wrong with Dylan Cease. So I'm going to take the Cubbies, who have been rip-roaring hot, who just salvaged the series, won the series at L.A. after dropping game 1 Friday night 3-0. Oh, hey, how you doing? Here's 20 runs over the next 2 games, 16-0 and 4-2. Sunday Night Baseball. Beating the Dodgers on a game where they had Glass now going and were laying God knows how much, almost $2, I want to say. Cubbies come out of there victorious. Now they're going right down the road, right down the 5 to San Diego. I wish I was going down the 5 from Woodland Hills right now to San Diego. And I think they're going to chase Cease. Under 17.5 outs, minus 115. That's the play on Cease. Those are the 2 official bets. We've talked about it a bit on Cashing Out. There are some series plays that intrigue the hell out of me. Kansas City, plus 150 in the Bronx intrigues me because game 1, when you're betting a 3-game set, a 3-game series prop, game 1 is so crucial. And yes, obviously you want to look, should it be 1-1? Who's going in the rubber game? But I say, hey, win game 1, and then it's a lot easier to split the next 2. So you look at this series in the Bronx, and you got Seth Lugo. Now, he hasn't quite looked like the Seth Lugo of last year just yet. But you got Seth Lugo on one end, you got Cookie Carrasco on the other. Cookie Carrasco, I haven't seen any props yet posted for him, but, you know, we talk about over 2.5 earned runs. We've discussed that, consecutive starts, and he's allowed over 2.5 earned runs, consecutive starts. He's made 3 appearances this year, 2 starts, gone over that mark both starts. Lugo, clear pitching advantage for the Royals. Now he's pitching at Yankee Stadium. He struggled a bit against the Yankees a year ago, but I like Lugo in this spot. I like the Royals to win the game. Now, look, they're plus money to win just this one game, but they win this game. They got Bubic going in the rubber match. He's got a great ERA to start the year, Chris Bubic. If they can split the next 2, take game 1 and then worry about a split, plus 150 is a heck of a price, and it's a better price than the plus 115 they're catching game 1. Mets Twins, it's a pick 'em on the series. I think you got to take the Mets. Minus 110. How do you pass up on the Mets? Minus 110 in Minnesota. I mean, the Twins have been a disaster, not just this season, but going back to September 1st of 2024, the Twins, White Sox, and Rockies all have an identical winning percentage, 33.3%, going back to September 1st. The Twins had their famous postseason collapse. The Tigers take their playoff spot. I can't see Minnesota, even with Joe Ryan on the bump game 1, taking 2 out of 3 from the Mets. And final series, speaking of the team that took this playoff spot from Minnesota, Detroit laying 25 cents at Milwaukee. All you need to know there, Tigers currently best record in the American League, and they're running out Tarek Skubal game 1, Jack Flaherty game 2. I like the Tigers minus 125 at Milwaukee. And that'll do it for the VSiN Daily Morning Bets. That'll also do it for another terrific edition of Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. But folks, the great content at VSiN never ends. How about VSiN by the books? Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis, bright and early, 7 a.m. Eastern, followed by a numbers game with our friends Kelly Bidlin and Gil Alexander, at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then Money Moves, hosted by our girls Stormy Bond and Tony at noon Eastern. Special thank you to our sensational producer, Adam Bernard, for the incredible program that he put together for us. The rest of our team behind the glass at Circa at the VSiN Studios, Danny, Jarens, Alexis, Chris, couldn't have done it without them. That does it for Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. Let's do it again, Domani.